Why would anyone ever sell on seller finance or subject to their existing loan? Literally, I have to write a check to sell my house. That
Mm.
friggin' sucks. Well, what if some dude came along and offered me 5 or 10K cash? Well, there's a value proposition.
I wanted to find out with just what the advantage is for the seller, what would motivate him to leave that because he's at risk if the buyer doesn't make the payments. So I'm just trying to see why it would be attractive for the seller.
I love that question, and that is a question that must be asked. Why would anyone ever sell on seller finance or subject to their existing loan? When their credit is tied to that loan, if the buyer doesn't make payments, it hurts the seller's credit. Why would anybody ever do that? Well, there are plenty of situational reasons. Creative finance is weird. I acknowledge that, and I'll say it again and again. Creative finance is weird, and so we use creative finance to solve a problem. If there's not a problem to solve, it does not make sense to buy or sell subject to the existing loan or even on seller finance. If the problem is I need more money for my property, or let's look at seller finance. If I know that money's going to burn a hole in my pocket, I might consider selling on seller finance where number one, I can sell it, not receive all the cash up front because that's good for me and my finances. Number two, I can earn interest on that money like it's in a bank account. So now it's a money making. I've converted my house into an asset that produces money in the form of interest. I've marked up the sale price and now I'm making interest on the remaining loan balance. That can act like an annuity to fund my life for the next 10, 20 years. Who knows? So that may be an advantage to offset my irresponsibility with money otherwise. There's a good reason. Now, with the sub two, sometimes people get a loan that is very high relative to the value of the property. The values here in the loan balance is like right up there. A case in point, our Veterans Affairs. Our military personnel can get a 100% loan. Zero down, zero out of pocket, blah, 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 maybe closing costs. So you buy a $400,000 property and you owe $400,000 on it. When you sell a property, there are expenses for the seller. Usually, the seller pays realtor commissions ranging from 2 to 6%. Well, 6%, somebody get your calculators out. Somebody tell me what 6% of 400,000 is. Okay, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars to sell your house. Well, if you owe 400,000 and have to sell it right away, here's the example. A military person buys a house, zero down. They owe the full purchase price. Then they get new orders and have to move across the country. That sucks. Now I got to sell my house or turn it into a rental or something. I don't want to be a landlord. If I sell with a real estate agent, it's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars to sell it. Literally, I have to write a check to sell my house. That
Mm.
freaking sucks. Well, what if some dude came along and offered me 5 or 10K cash? Not only do you not have to pay 20 some odd, 30 some odd thousand dollars, but I'll give you 10,000 cash up front if you just let me take over your payments. Well, there's a value proposition. If I gave you
Mm.
$10,000 and you didn't have to pay $34,000, that's an equivalent difference of $43,000 over what you would have done in the first place. That's a big swing. Maybe it's worth $43,000 to let somebody take over your payments. There's a benefit right there. So it is going, there
Yeah, I
should,
see.
yes, there should be a situational answer and reason why somebody's selling sub two every single time. There is a story behind every single creative finance deal. And if you, as a transaction manager, fail to get the story, you're doing a disservice to your client and to the seller and the buyer and anybody else involved because you can't possibly solve the problem if you don't know what the problem is. You need to
Okay.
establish that shared understanding, and you need to be able to build, each person needs to be able to build a plain language summary of that deal. 1 to 3 paragraphs, just a basic narrative. So once you understand the narrative behind the deal, now you can work to solve the problems. And so interviews are a very important part of what we do onboarding a deal.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Very good question. I'm glad you asked.